Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
There are moments in our lives where we let our guard down and maybe we share a little bit too much of ourselves. And if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you're in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals and pick their brain on current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, anything else we can think of, really in a light and conversational fashion, as it were, because that's how we like to do it over here. And if you'd like to subscribe to the podcast, we hope that you would because you're listening to us right now. You can do so wherever you find your podcasts, Amazon, Google, Spotify, Apple, and you can find all of our episodes archived at our YouTube channel, or In the Seats YouTube channel, excuse me. We'd also love it if you'd follow us on social media. You can do so on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, either at In the Seats or at It's Podcast One for all sorts of updates. And finally, and I say this a lot, but probably most importantly, please visit our hardworking team over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest movie news, reviews, and anything else under the sun, really, because we love talking about the moving image, and we know you like reading about it, because we all need stuff to watch, and there's plenty out there to do that. And that dovetails right into what we're going to be talking about on this episode. We are jumping into the Arrow streaming service with their feature film of the month, and it is called The Stylist, from writer-director Jill Gevargizian. I apologize, I probably mispronounced that, but it is the story of a lonely hairstylist who becomes obsessed with the lives of her clients, and to say that she's a little unstable, probably would be a bit of an understatement. But let me try that. It's from writer-director Jill Gevargizian, if I pronounced that correctly. Again, I apologize, Jill, if I butchered it. But you should check it out on the Arrow streaming service if you can. It's a great service, and it's only a measly $5 a month. But this is a really sort of stylish and unsettling horror movie. It's sure there's some moments of blood and gore in it, but it's really about sort of insidiously getting underneath our skin and sort of staying there with this universe that they're building. And it's a great movie with some faces you might recognize, like Bria Grant and a few other people. And I hope you enjoy our talk with Jill, because we talked about the movie. We talked about her inspiration for the movie. She is actually a stylist herself, and it was pulled from a short film that she also made. But we talked about that. We talked about sort of the incredibly sort of designed and stylish nature of the film, which really almost plays as a character unto itself, and just sort of a bit of a surprise ending, which we won't spoil, but I will say it's the first time in quite some time that I got surprised by an ending of a film, and I enjoyed the hell out of it, and I hope you enjoy the hell of our talk with Jill, because it is a good one. All right. Well, obviously, first off, congratulations on the film. I absolutely loved it. Can you walk me through, I guess, maybe the origin of, I guess, maybe this being the first feature, because you had done some shorts before, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were a stylist before you got into the entertainment business. Is that right?
Yes, I'm actually still a hairstylist, as scary as that might be.
So what like was that just the origin for the stylist, just because you are a stylist?
It is definitely where the first kind of question came to me, like, how does a horror movie about a hairstylist that kills people not already exist, was like the first thing. And it actually, since you brought up my short films, it started, we made a short film with the same concept that we put out back in 2016. And it was something I always wanted to be a feature from the dawn of the idea, but I knew I needed more experience. I definitely wanted more experience behind the camera. And so we thought, once we had the short film, it would only hopefully help us get the feature made, down the line. So it's been quite years and years in the making, multiple phases to get here. But yeah, it really just started with how does this not already exist, mixed with, the whole write what you know thing. So it's been like an 8-year journey almost at this point with this concept.
Wow. Now, I mean, I do love the concept, and I mean, I think what I love about it is just how sort of very, I mean, subtle is almost the wrong word, but it does, like, when I first saw the poster and I first saw the concept and read the proof, I'm like, okay, this might be a bit more of a slashery type thing. But I'm like, no, this really sort of went psychological and it went very sort of unsettling as opposed to sort of jump scare kind of thing, if you know what I mean. Like, for you as a storyteller, was that always sort of the drive to make this more of sort of one of those creepy, unsettling kind of horror films as opposed to the pure out kind of slasher movie?
Yeah, we knew we wanted it to be Claire's story, and like your typical slasher is, like 90% of the time told from the intentionally in a one-dimensional way. So this is kind of taking the totally opposite perspective of those kind of stories, and instead getting to know, it's like an anti-hero story essentially. And I've always been really, really personally interested in those kind of stories and films about characters that they're just, you feel very conflicted because it's not as simple as they're good or they're bad.
Well, there's always so much more room to play with when you're sympathetic towards the bad guy theoretically, as opposed to sort of the hero of the story. You really get a lot more sort of meat to work with.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And the the morbid side of me has always been very attracted to confrontational art, and so I like stuff that really makes you think about things that aren't comfortable, and so that's all part of this film.
Now, I mean, I guess talk to me a little bit about just getting the right cast and the ensemble for it, because I mean, Najara is fantastic and is really sort of this balance between sad and sympathetic and sort of really downright unsettling all at the same time.
Yeah, I can't count how many times we have all said that this film is rests on Najara's like incredible talent, or the fact that I feel like that it worked in the way we hoped it would, because I knew the character could come off campy if it was in the wrong hands.
Yeah.
And because I admitted to myself that kind of what she does is for sure a very over the top theatrical serial killer routine, but I didn't want her to emotionally feel that way. I wanted her to feel grounded still. And that's thanks to Najara, which I think it's a lot to do with the fact that she was also in the short film, and we had been basically developing this character ever since then, making her even more, giving her more background, more memories, and just all this time we've had together. It's, I feel like a unique situation where really she as an actor was just as involved as creating this character as we were as writers. So she knows her like as well as we do, which is like, it feels very fortunate I could ask her like, would Claire do that if I wasn't sure? And she would have like a very succinct answer. So she was always our Claire. But with Olivia, the other lead character of the film, she's created as an anti Claire in a way. From Claire's perspective, she is the ideal person. And so it was kind of this balance of presenting her the way Claire sees her, but also wanting, when directing Bria Grant, who plays her, knowing that we want her to be played as a full human, whether we're looking at her the way Claire does or not. And they were the two women, Najara and Bria, were the perfect kind of contrast in personalities that we were hoping for.
Well, and like you say, you were spoiled because Najara worked with you on the short, and I mean, there really is this deep understanding of the character, and I mean, it really comes to life not just through her performance, but also because I was really struck by the visual aesthetic of the film, and because in many ways, just the way you shot it and the way everything is set up, it felt very almost gothic. And I mean, I kind of love the framing of it as well. And can you talk a little bit just in terms of sort of the visual style? Because I mean, I think the one thing that almost stood out for me, it's a weird scene, but I think it was between Claire and Olivia sort of in the parking lot when things were getting a little uncomfortable and you had that sort of sense of distance. It really made the thing feel that much more powerful.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we spent a lot of time developing like the visual language and our vision for the film, which I think so much of that is just really taking the time as filmmakers to do that, because that kind of planning really takes months versus just trying to make decisions quickly, where you can really have the chance to every decision to have intention behind it. Like the camera's here because the character feels this. We created like we created a set of rules where, you know, we approach certain moments for Claire. Like she has these moments we kind of call Claire's trance, where she will get lost in a moment and kind of forget the outside world. Or we brought back, we use, you know, the kind of a thing that's more thought of as an old school thing now, but we use a lot of zooms. And we spent a lot of time on creating the color palette for the film and what it means and when we use what. So it's something that we always knew we wanted to put a lot of time and intention into. And I learned that from one of my favorite filmmakers, David Fincher, who uses color as a way to represent like different things. It could be time passing or different characters, and it's stuff you wouldn't pinpoint unless you dissected a movie. But I think those kind of details is what elevates a film. And even if we're not conscious of it as viewers, but that's something that we took a lot of pride in and spent a lot of time in planning the visuals and, you know, what they meant. And how with every decision we made, we were always thinking, how can we best represent or reflect how Claire feels in this moment.
Well, and it's such an interesting mix too, because it really does blend with sort of the psychological state of the character. And I mean, just sort of framing a horror movie around this idea. I mean, I'm sure as a stylist, you may have heard some horror stories that may have prompted you to write the script. I don't know, but I mean, just from a psychological standpoint, seeing sort of this mixture of darkness, but with a lot of brightness and sort of color at the same time, really sort of creates this very sort of, I mean, kaleidoscopic feels like a forced word, but it really allows sort of the audience to sort of have their emotions run up and down throughout the entire film.
Thank you. We kind of we barely dipped our toes into it when we started the short, and we just knew, especially with the color, that we were going to go kind of all out with it with the feature. We as a group kind of really, all the like top creative key heads, we really like hyper stylish films, and we felt if there was ever a time to do it, it made total sense in a
Yeah.
film about a stylist. And I do love, like you said, you mentioned, I love Gothic art and architecture, and that kind of influence we sprinkled all through the film. Um, like, and I really love a filmmaker like Baz Luhrmann, who did
Oh,
the
totally. Yeah.
Romeo and Juliet, and that mixture of kind of like Gothic with modern stuff, you know, kind of stuff that you wouldn't think would go together. We really try to also do that in our own way.
No, absolutely. And I mean, it really makes for such a beautiful blend. And I mean, I guess that kind of dovetails into my next question. It's a bit of a loaded question, but it's something I always like to ask people. How do you go from stylist to filmmaker? It doesn't seem like sort of a straight line. Like what ultimately got you into into this business?
Well, I am still a hairstylist, but it's I've definitely always loved film since I was very young. I mean, watching movies, and I have done lots of creative things throughout my life. Like I grew up dancing and playing piano, and then I discovered theater in junior high, and I also discovered like had a deep passion for photography, which still exists. And so I feel like there were kind of a lot of things I was doing in the performing arts and the creative world that are all encompassed in filmmaking. I was just doing them like one at a time through my life. And when I was really young, we would make, you know, funny, silly films, but I never thought of it as something I could attempt to do in any serious way. It like never even crossed my mind until honestly I went to a horror convention in my late 20s, saw some independent films there, like saw the filmmakers were there, and I was like, that's when I feel like it dawned on me that real people like make movies. Like it never crossed my mind before then, and I became just like obsessed with it, and started a screening series actually where we show independent horror films once a month. Did that up until the pandemic hit, and it was really through meeting all those filmmakers, and I started to kind of work, like get on those sets, and then I was like, I want to direct a short film, and then it just went from there.
Now I'm curious, like when it comes to horror as a genre, what is it about it that allows such a wide array of stories? Because I mean, I look at something like The Stylist, and I mean, if it had tried to been sort of less horrorish and more about the emotional trauma that women inflict upon each other and the pressures that are out there to get married and do all this sort of stuff, it would have been a Hallmark movie. But doing it as a horror movie, it makes it that much more relevant, makes it that much more scary, and makes it feel more visceral. What is it about the genre that you think allows so much room to sort of tackle a wide array of subjects?
I think it's almost like you're almost explaining it. It's like it gives us this filter, like a very entertaining and fun and adventurous type of filter to talk about, deeper or more serious, whether emotions or subjects or messages that you're trying to, it's like it's often a great metaphor for, something deeper, where, like you said, if it was just a straight drama about the same subject, it might feel much more heavy handed, like this is what we're trying to say here, versus it being more disguised through an entertaining artistic lens, which but then I do love very serious dramas, which is kind of why the film is for me a mix of horror and tragedy.
Sure.
But yeah, I feel like it's a way to get a wider audience to to think about things that aren't, we don't have to like hit them over the head with it, or flat out say this is what we're trying to talk about.
Well, and it feels like you're on the perfect platform for that too, just in terms of getting audiences sort of to watch the product and sort of accept it and sort of be interested in it. And it really is one of those films that sort of fits perfectly into, I like, it's maybe modern horror for a better term, because it really allows for such a wide array of audiences for people to jump. Like people who aren't necessarily horror films will enjoy your film, at least from my perspective. That's how the film plays.
I hope so, but I do know the gore. I am such a horror fan as it growing up that way, that I knew once we got to the kill scenes, I wanted to go all out.
Oh, for sure.
To satisfy the horror fanatics.
No, and I mean it's such an interesting balance of, like you say, the tragedy, but the horror that you want to sort of put in. I mean, without spoiling it, there is a surprise at the end, which honestly I did not see coming. You legitimately had me at the end of the movie. I was like, I did not expect that, and it really caught me off guard, and I absolutely loved it.
That is great to hear, because I know I never know what people are going to think if it is the end of a horror movie, so you're maybe expecting something not great to be coming. But it is kind of one of those endings where we set it up like this dreadful thing you almost maybe know is happening. But I get super excited when I hear that it was a surprise to people.
Oh no, you diffused us the entire way, and then right, boom, I'm like, oh god, they did it. I guess that kind of dovetails into my next question. When you're putting something together like this, like, is it story? Is it style? Is it like, what is sort of the main drive for you when you're trying to put together a film?
I would say the main drive is a mix of the character, especially a film like this, and the style, which I feel like it connects in that whoever this film is about is going to influence is going to inform the style and all those questions we have about how we design the movie. um I because I love designing the film once we, our the script is ready to be broken down, and figure out how we solve all these problems within it. But I think that way also because I personally have more of a as a storyteller, I'm more attracted to character pieces. I think I connect more to characters within things. That's what draws me into a movie than the
Right.
story itself. It's like I like that character so much that I'm ready to go on whatever journey they're going on, versus the journey is exciting and the characters, okay. Because I think it's all about, we have to care about whoever those people are in a movie to care about what happens to them.
No, you're absolutely right. Now, I guess my next question is, and this is a silly one, but I get as a stylist who is still a stylist, how many stories do you hear while working on someone that could be turned into movies?
Oh man, so many. I should probably start I don't even know, a coffee table book or anthology film about that sort of thing.
It just feels like it's the best place to do research.
It is. I've thought about that in hindsight, that just in general, it's been a great thing. That's all something I love about the job, is that I get to know so many people, and in a very like uniquely intimate way. And then in hindsight, I realized it's like been a great way to just study humans, and because I have so many different kinds of clients. It's not just like a, one social circle type. It's so it's interesting. And of course, most of my clients know my horror fandom and that I'm a filmmaker, but I have some newer ones that are learning now what I'm doing. And it's a very funny moment when they're like, what's your movie about? And I'm like, cutting their hair, and they're like, I go, a hairstylist that kills people. Don't be scared.
But you know what? I mean, I'm so glad to hear that. And I mean, I just want to say congratulations again on the film. And I think giving audiences a character like this, which is both sympathetic but terrifying all at the same time, has not been done in quite some time. And I think audiences are going to absolutely love it. And I just want to say thank you again for the time, and congratulations again on the film. I was really blown away.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, and it's always a pleasure.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.